What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I have another book from the Booker Longlist. Let's get into it. Okay, that book is Flesh. Okay. The next book up I've read on the Booker Longlist. If you are not new here, then you know that I'm making my way through the Booker Longlist because I joined a book club that's reading all 13 books over the course of 12 months. I'm reading the ones that we have to read for the book club meetings. This one, actually, the next meeting that we have is about this book right here, so I needed to get that in. This book was interesting. I sat with this book for a few days before I did this review because I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. So, okay, what's this book about? You follow the main character, Istvan, who is from Hungary, but he then moves to London and, stuff like that. But it starts off with him as a 15-year-old boy in Hungary, living with his mom. And over the course of this book, which spans decades, he is exposed to a lot. He is involved in a series of very traumatic events. He has things happen to him. He does things. And you really just get to follow his life, again, starting at the age of 15 and then up well into adulthood, well into adulthood. The reason I wasn't sure how to feel about this book, on one hand, is very, very evident that the author can write a book. Like, the way that the book was crafted, the voice that was used at times, the structure of it, it was a well-crafted novel. And it had themes that I feel like were really important. So like the loneliness of men, the traumatic events that happen to men, really a focus on like young boyhood, teenagehood, up until like a man's adulthood. And it's really focused on the main character, Istvan, his upbringing and his life. But you really get to see, like through, again, a series of events, how different traumatic events shape his life and trajectory. You get to see like the decisions he make, how everything almost comes around full circle, how you get to see him as a boy, you get to see him as a dad, and it's really interesting and important, I think, to have some of the conversations that this book brings up. So on that hand, I liked it. Written well, talks about men and some very complicated issues with it. How it brings up, everything I can say is low key a spoiler, but you get a sense of like how children can be preyed on, how children can be targeted, how children can be groomed. Then you get to see like teenagers, how they deal with that, what comes of that. Then you get to see adulthood, how some cycles repeat itself, not all. And just like that part of the book I really liked. I liked Istvan's character, how he was very much like this nonchalant character, how he approached life in like a whatever happens kind of thing. I'm cool with it. I'm not. It don't really matter. And then you got to wonder, like, the nature versus nurture aspect of it. So that part of the book I liked. It was thought-provoking, written well, important themes, and it was unique in the way that the story was told, I believe. So that's the good part. I see why it's on the Booker Longlist. On the other hand, I still and I can't even really put into words what about it that I just didn't love. Like, I feel like Istvan's character, I think, was great, the main character. But then you see like the other characters in the book too almost take on his character traits. And so I wish, like, I think what kind of throws me off is that instead of his character being distinct, I feel like everybody he kind of comes into contact with has similar characteristics. And so it makes his character not its own. And it kind of seems like, I just wish there was like that duality. I wish there was like that kind of back and forth where you have these characters who are there, you know, whatever. And then you got Istvan, who's very distinct and kind of stands out based on everything that we know about him. But that wasn't the case for me. And so maybe that's what I didn't really like. But like I said, other than that, written really well. Istvan was an interesting character. Again, I just wish he was a character of his own. And some of this was it the first chapter or the first two? The first chapter of this book, please, I mean, over the whole book, please check your trigger warnings. But the first chapter of this book was so hard to read. The only reason I kept going with it is because, again, I'm in the book club and I knew they was like, oh yeah, you know, just get past that part. And it's like another story, like it's gonna happen. But this first chapter will trigger you. Okay, to me, you really should check your trigger warnings. I was triggered. I was mad. I was frustrated. I was hurt. And then it does, like, I'm a woman. I am raising two boys. You know, and I just like reading that just made me so mad just thinking about how sick adults can be. How like you think you helping your children, but are you really hurting them? How, you know, they might keep stuff away from you that is very impertinent that you know. How these traumatic events shape the trajectory of their life. And then like that's just me thinking about Istvan in the first part. Then you think about Tomas or Thomas. I'm not really sure the way that it's pronounced in the book, but you think about him and he has a different set of struggles than Istvan, but you even think about him as a boy, what he experiences with his mom and daddy and Istvan, what he experiences with life. And you think about the trajectory of that, you know what I mean? And it's some hard stuff to deal with. Istvan is a war veteran. So yeah, he served time in the military, and so you kind of get to see some of the stuff he's dealing with PTSD. You get to see there are some like strong supporting side characters that are women. You get to see like their interaction with the men in this book. You get to see how they stand alone and what they represent. And yeah, you check the trigger warnings because there is, even like, I don't know, obviously I don't know what everybody's triggers are, but there are parts of this book outside of what I said in chapter 1 where substance abuse is mentioned and in a way that I feel like could be triggering. But speaking of, now that I'm thinking about it, there is another reason that I didn't quite love this book outside of what I said about Istvan's character. There's one more reason. This book is heavily about sex. Like it surrounds sex, and not in a way where I'm like, I'm not trying to say I'm a prude, but it's not even in that way. I'm not talking about like, you know, it's steamy and it's smutty. Not like that. It's just so much of it is somehow related back to sex. Whether that's healthy or unhealthy, all kinds. It all kind of relates back to that. And then that makes me think that might have been, you know, really intentional because we're talking about Istvan, how the story started versus how it ended. It was just it was way more than I would have wanted to read about. Like so much of it was heavily reliant on something related to sex. And again, it's not like, oh, these are smutty scenes. Not like that. Just, if you read it, you'll know what I mean. But that was kind of off-putting to me a little bit. Yeah, I feel like it was overdone. But like, and I go back to, it's such a well-written book. Like, it was so well written. And once again, this is one of the books where I'm like, okay, I see why it's on the Booker Longlist. I get it. I get it. The past few I've read, they've been good. Flashlight, The South. I like Love Forms. I liked Flesh. I didn't absolutely love this for the reasons I said, but I liked it. And I do think even the dialogue in this book, like I said, the way that he introduced everything, the author introduced it, it was very unique. Like, even the dialogue was like, it was a lot of dialogue, but at the same time, it wasn't. Just because of like how the characters talked. Again, I go back to, I still feel like I wished Istvan would have had his own voice that was distinct from everybody else, but that's neither here nor there. That's it, Flesh. I'm very excited to talk to the book club about it. Actually, by the time y'all see this, will we be in a book? I don't know, but who knows when this video will be out. But this is the next book that we're discussing. I'm excited to see what everybody else thought about it. I feel like this is one of the books where my opinion about it will probably change as time goes on. Like, after I read all of the books, I'm going to rank them in the order that I like them most the least. And I feel like this is one of those books that like slowly creeps up because it kind of needs to settle a little bit. Like, really get to see it for what it was and not the expectations I put on it. So we'll see. I'm interested to see how that changes, if it does. But yeah, y'all, that's it. Flesh. If you've read it, let me know what you think. If you plan to read it, let me know what you think. And yeah, that's it, y'all. I'm going to see you on the next one.